Okay, this is video number 2 of Project 4. It looks like now that I draw a rectangle, things are working out fine, which was not the case in my previous video. Okay, so now I'm ready to work on this project. Now, you could also scan in sketches. For the demonstration purposes, I am kind of in a bit of a hurry, so I did not do that. But this might be a sketch instead of an image, or you might even put both in here. Sometimes I'll place a sketch and an image in my Illustrator file. 1, my sketch is simplified, and 2, my image shows me color. So let's start with the background. We're going to build from the background to the foreground on this thing. Now the guy is in the foremost foreground, but the farthest away is the sky. Now the cool thing about Illustrator is you can sample colors from the photo. Now I'm not sure that this color is something I would use. It's a little gray, you'll see here, so I'll start with that. I'm going to draw a box. This is going to indicate the sky. I'm also going to draw another box, and I can put this just right over this other box. This is going to indicate, I guess, the water here. I'm going to sample a color from that water. And, you know, we can't see the guy now, so we might want to bring this linked graphic to the top of the object. And then I can apply a transparency to this so I can see through it. So I'm going to go to my effects panel and, excuse me, I always think of different things depending on what software I'm in. So effects would be InDesign. So we are in Illustrator. So I'm going to find where to put my transparency. There we go. Window transparency. I might adjust this a little bit so I can see through it. Okay, make sure that's not selected. I have the box selected. So let me grab the image. I may have to unlock that image. Let me close this. Bring these over here. And I don't need that. There we go. There's my transparency. And I'm bringing up my layers. It looks like a little sandwich kind of. I want to unlock that so I can change the color. Okay, so I'll lock it back here in just a second. And again, I'm going to go to the transparency. Let me find that one. There it is. And I'm going to adjust the opacity on this so I can see what's going on underneath. That helps a lot. I know where my edges are. Okay. So I'll lock this guy in place again. Let me go to layers. I'll lock him. Okay, you don't want him moving around on you. And then I'm going to go back down to the artwork and start working. Okay, so if I turn this off, you'll see I have this. Okay, makes sense, right? I'm going to, now this one I'm going to be using the pen tool on it. Actually, I'll do the Pathfinder and the pen tool. And this needs to be fairly simple as far as its shapes go. But I will always, almost always, zoom way in so I can see the details of what it is I'm drawing. Now, when I say we don't need a lot of detail, I'm talking about tons of detail in the midtones, highlights, and shadows. I do, however, expect detail in regard to, let me fill this with nothing here, and in regards to the shapes of things. Just like in our portrait we did a while back, it was all about the details. The more detailed it was, the better it looked. So here I am colorizing this tree. I'm not going to color it yet. I'm just going to make the I'll make the shapes first. So I'm going to grab these. I'm using the pen tool. Now we did quite a bit of discussion about the pen tool in the previous project. You know, I click and drag, that gives me curves, and if I just click, it gives me corners. Now I always want to end where I started. If you're having a hard time seeing because your layer is, like this layer is blue, I can double click on this layer and I can make it a different color. Let's say I make it magenta. I'll actually be able to see things a little bit better. So you guys can change your layers and what colors they have. So here are the two paths I have. I wish I could fast forward this because I could sit here and do this all day. And So I might do this and then fast forward to make this video go a little quicker. But I'm just going to do shapes for now. Okay, so here I'll do these, and in a few minutes you'll see that on the video it'll kind of jump ahead. Okay, so I've just completed some paths that are for the this tree shape. Let me show you by going to View, Outline, where those paths are. Okay, so I'm going to click on each one of these, holding down the Shift key and clicking. I'm going to grab each one. It's kind of like a little group of them. I could group them if I wanted to. So I'll go to Object and Group. Of course, we can always ungroup those. Here on the Layers panel, you see it grouped together. I am going to turn on... I'm going to go back to View and Preview, and I'm going to click on this image. Well, actually, I don't need to click on it. I'm going to grab a color. Let's say I'm going to grab that color green. Now, is it grabbing the actual color, or is it grabbing a transparency of that color? So I may need to unlock the linked graphic and go to the transparency. Make sure it's selected and put it at 100%, and then grab a color, because it does indeed grab the transparency. So this might be a little bit of a pain in the neck. I may have to just turn him off for now. And I'm going to go to these grouped objects. Oops, excuse me. Let me zoom out so I can see better. Turn him back on. There we go. And maybe move. He's actually below those grouped objects, so I can zoom back in. It deselected that color here, so let me do that again. Put that color fill in there. Okay. Now I will turn off this linked layer, and I probably should go ahead and clean up this edge here. Now there are things that we can do like masking and stuff where we don't have to worry about the cleaned up edges, but for now I'm going to clean this up just until we're used to using Illustrator a bit. And I can send this to the back Oh, here's the reminder that your class is in 15 minutes. Let's dismiss that. Again, I can send this behind this black box shape. So I'll deal with that later. So here we're zoom back out, and it's not crazy crazy cool just yet, but we're getting there. Again, I'm going to tighten this box up. There we go. Now, when I say we don't have to be perfect about these things on the edges, you'll see these things are overlapping and they're not doing very well. The same thing there. If I were to just grab this colored box and bring it to the top and then lock it, you'll see that it just covers it right up. So we don't have to be too horribly particular about position, assuming we're about middle of that line. So you can see how it's not perfect, but it is now. Okay, so we're just covering it up. Alright, so I'm going to go back to this and go back to the photo, turn that back on, and those are my shapes. Now, what I want to do is build up the tree limbs. I'm going to start drawing those. Many of those are in front of these shapes. In fact, I'll turn off the grouped objects there, and you'll see that I can sit here and draw these tree limbs with the pen tool. Now, if there's one that crosses over, I usually ignore it and draw it later. Again, I need to tell this to fill it with none. And these colors that it's picking, I'm not sure. I mean, they might be good for the photo, but for a graphic, I'll probably brighten them up a little bit. So even though I'm color picking using the color picker, I'm not sure that it's the best situation as far as color goes. So here I'm making some tree limbs, and I'll continue to do this until I have the majority of these drawn. So I'll come back again, and we will, at the end of this, you'll see that I have these tree limbs drawn. Okay, so I'll just keep drawing, and you'll see here in a second I'll have them all done. Okay, so my trees are almost done. Probably should color those a little bit less yellow, yellow-green. But you'll see how in some cases when I'm working, I am going outside of the line, which is fine. We'll eventually do what's called a clipping mask on that. So for now, we're just going to keep that intact. The other thing you can do is you could carefully go in if you didn't want to do a clipping mask, and you could carefully go in and adjust your nodes. I think I just moved the whole thing. So you want to use the white arrow tool to adjust those nodes and get those so they're hiding behind that line. And that line work is right here on the top of my my zip lining layers. There it is. So you can drag that around, you know, from one place to another. Let me ungroup. I've grouped a lot of stuff, but let me move this to the bottom, and you'll see now it's hiding here. So you'll want to move that up to the topmost layer every once in a while, and then make adjustments accordingly. So either we can do a mask later, or you can make those adjustments so that it hides your work. Okay, so you just got to decide what's worth. Now, the only bad thing about a mask later on, when I'm ready to show you that, is it automatically flattens the work, and nothing is in layers anymore, which is a real problem if you wanted to try to dig through your layers again. So there are some things that they're great tools, but sometimes they pose extra problems. So that's one of those things that a layer mask, or excuse me, just a mask. Photoshop has layer masking. Illustrator has a different kind of masking. No, so I'll get rid of that in just a second. Okay, so we have the trees, and let's review what I've done here. So let's turn off this group. I'm going to zoom again here. I tend to group things up. So this group is the kind of shadows of the foremost tree objects. This group here are the actual tree, that's the tree foliage that's, again, towards the front. I have in this group, I have a few things. You notice how it looks kind of sloppy. It doesn't matter because I cover a lot of that up. So here I have my twigs, and then here I have just darker shadowed type objects. Okay, they're just drawn with a pen tool. You know, this is one of those things where image trace really is not going to work very well. You don't want to image trace a photo. Let me get rid of a couple of these extra things here. So I just deleted some anchor points, and now I've got to join these to make them finished. So I'll click on that guy, see how it's an open path, hold down the shift key, click on that anchor point, go to object, path, and join. Now it's a solid object. Same thing here. I need to bring this guy up, bring this one up too, hold on the shift key, click on, make sure both of these nodes are clicked on, the rest of the nodes are hollow, go to object, path, and join. Okay, so it's tedious and time consuming, but it's not hopefully going to prove to be very difficult for you. Looks like I have a few other areas I need to clean up down here. Again, I got a little happy whenever I was drawing, wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to where my edges were. So this is, you know, it's detailed, but it's not like I didn't draw every leaf. So when I say detail, I want to see some detail. I just don't need to see every little detail. So this is, you know, showing midtones, highlights, and shadows in as minimal a way as possible, but yet still having them there. Okay. So let's look at the line work on this so we also see it. So I'm going to go to View and Outline mode, and you can see this is what it looks like when it's not colored. So you can kind of see all the shapes I've got going on. Okay, now I'm going to go to View and Preview. All right, you know, it's been a while since I saved this, so I should probably save. Whoops, not close, but save. Always save your work often. Now I also took the artistic license, my artistic license, and on this image, the trees actually were not that big, and I did increase them in size. Now that's okay. I'm going to put him in front of them. I may bring them back down a little bit or edit some of this out, but I did enlarge those quite a bit. Just it seemed like in the frame that I had without showing the picture, it just seemed stark. Okay, now I'm ready to draw the man. So in the zip lining layer, I am going to create a new layer in there and drag it into it. Okay, so you can see that I created a layer, called it layer 6, and I drug it down below the zip lining layer. I'm going to call this layer the man. Okay, so this is a sub layer actually. Now I'm going to start drawing him, but I'm going to turn everything else off for just a second. Let's just turn lots of things off, except for the I definitely want the picture on. Make sure that's on. Okay. And I'm going to start drawing some paths for him. Again, this is all using the pen tool. It's taken a while to do this demonstration because this takes a while to draw. But what I'm thinking again is think foreground, middle ground, background. What things are layered over others? Well, his skin is probably the most underneath layer. So I can probably draw an arm. It's got skin, another arm. I'll draw them separate. The reason why I'll draw them separate is this shirt is a separate layer. It's almost like, think about cut paper. I don't even have to draw his whole body as far as his skin's concerned. I'm going to draw arms separate. I'm going to draw legs separate, and then I'll attach other items to it. So let's look at this arm. So again, I'm going to use the pen tool, and I'm going to draw carefully this arm. I don't want to use a bunch of nodes, just a few. And again, if you're in a situation where your color for your layer is blending in, you can always change that color to another color. Now orange doesn't get along with that very well, so let's try a teal. See if I can see that better. There we go. Maybe we'll do it here. Teal. Okay, and I'm going to fill that with none. I can see that much better. Okay, so we're going to now draw the arm. Now, theoretically, I could draw the hands separate from the arm parts because it's a slightly different color. But for now, I'm going to leave it the same. You know, I want some detail, but I don't need it super detailed. So here's why it's important you have a photo with a decent resolution. You're going over elements that you don't want to have to guess. I'm having to guess a little bit about what's going on here. So as long as I understand anatomy, hopefully I'll be okay. But I'm drawing his thumb. Then I'll draw his rest of his hand here. And again, you know, high resolution graphics are great because then you can control this a little bit better as to what you can see. And you know, I may have to, oh, yeah, this is a little tough, so I may have to go in and do some edits afterwards if this doesn't look right. I know there's a digit there, and there's a bend there, and we'll come out here. Looks like he's got his middle finger bent just a little bit. Not too much, though. I don't want to look like he's got a broken finger. So we know it bends here, right at the fingertip. We know it bends at the knuckle. And again, I can't go over and edit these. This is going to look kind of funny, I have a feeling. So let me get this done. Gosh, it sure is hard when you don't have a really good graphic. And I thought it was pretty good, but boy, when it comes to these details, the graphics kind of lacking. So I always zoom way in so I can get the most out of my details. And I'm drawing, zoom way in. Okay, whoops, I think I might have not picked up where my path left off. Always make sure your path is continual. Okay, so there's one arm. Let me turn this outline on so you can see it. One arm. Okay, that's not too bad. I gotta fix a couple areas in there. And now I'm going to draw the next arm. So let me go back to preview. And I'm going to draw this one now. Oh, that'll be nice. His hand is hidden. It's always nice to not have to draw hands. I mean, I like drawing them, but they're just a little challenging. Most folks will say they have a hard time drawing hands. Okay, now this guy's going right up in here, so I'm just going to kind of envision where his little hand would be. His wrist would rotate a little bit there, so even though it's covered up, I just drew like a club sort of a hand, and it's going to be hidden with the mechanism. So here's his arm. Yep, there's his other one. So here we see the outline. There it is. It looks very odd, but does follow the contour. And let's draw his leg. By the way, to move around in Illustrator, I'm holding down the space bar, and the little hand key comes up, and doesn't matter what tool you're on. Of course, if you're in the type tool, it'll put a space bar in there, or it'll space it. Okay, here we're going to do his legs. I'll do midtones, highlights, and shadows here in his legs and his arms here in a little bit. I'm getting the basic shapes down. Again, good thing I don't have to draw bare feet. But here it's going to, I think I'll draw both legs separately. This leg, one goes behind the other, so I don't have to be real particular about where this goes. Okay. I do need to, oops. And we're going to get covered by shorts here, so I can just kind of make that kind of, I'm not worried about this contour because I'm going to draw the other one over it. Okay, so there's that one. Here's this one. Okay, we're getting there. Again, in the art of the pen tool, you guys know how tough this guy can be. So again, I'm going to be doing sort of a clubbed foot, but we don't need to do the whole entire foot. Okay, and this path will be in front of the other path too, so this will look okay when it's all said and done. Okay, almost done here. Okay, there. We'll just stop where the shorts are. There we go. Now I could go ahead and select some sort of middle tone skin color and go to View and Outline, and let me zoom out. I could grab each of these, this black arrow tool, the selection tool, grab each of these and make them delete. Excuse me, I'm not going to grab that one. It's not letting me not grab it. There we go. Oh, I went on the white arrow tool, that's why. Let's get with the black arrow tool, selection tool. I'm grabbing all three of these, turn on my preview again, and grab the skin tone from that. Okay, so there's outline, there's preview, here's what it looks like without the image. And those two legs will look like they are running together, but we'll fix that later. Okay? And that hand doesn't look horrible, I guess. So when you zoom in, it's a little off. But it doesn't look too horrible. Might want to fix a couple things here. And yeah, okay. Mighty tiny symbol, but yet we got some detail in here. So there's that. Turn the photo back on. Here we go. So I just did his arms, and I may need to examine this guy here because he does look rather odd. So I am going to adjust some nodes to alter him. Okay. So the idea is just keep on building from the back. Oh, I forgot his head. That's skin toned as well. But we just keep building from the back up. Now I do typically draw the neck as a separate object because of the way the head is attached. So here's his neck. Excuse me, let me zoom in. Looks to be right about here. It goes back where his shoulder goes. Okay. So there's his neck. Now that's not very pretty. And now let me, I'm actually going to move that out of the way for a second. I'm going to draw his head shape. I'll go ahead and draw his ear. And then I'll draw his, what I think was where his jaw is. Of course, he's got his safety cap on. And maybe I'll fill this with none until I'm done drawing it. Now the other ear would probably be a separate object. And again, I don't mind going all the way up into this helmet because I know the helmet's going to cover this up. So we have to understand that there are things that are going to be covered. So there's that. I think his ear might be looking a little bit large, so let's pull this up and alter it. There we go. Don't want it too large. Okay, and then I'm going to color it the same as the other one. I'm getting the eyedropper tool, grabbing that color. Now I can move this neck piece up and into where it goes. Okay, now I can deal with some shading here in a minute if I have to, just to get these parts and pieces to look right. Okay, so I zoomed out. Whoops, I don't want to move everything, pardon me. Let me zoom back in. And you can see that if I turn this photo off again, things are coming along pretty nicely. Okay, now it's about the next layer of things. I may or may not draw his backpack in. I will turn off his arms and stuff. Let me group those together. So I click on him and I say select the same color fill or fill color, and then I can group them. There we go. So those are all grouped together inside of the man layer. And I can also turn those off if I have to, which I would like to. Now I'm still in the man layer. I'm going to draw his shirt. This is a little tricky because there is a foreground and a background. So I'm going to draw the backmost shape first. So these two will kind of come together and blend together. But this shape goes behind the other one. Okay, so we're going to just do something like this. I'm going to fill it with none for now. See if there's anything else that goes behind. It looks like everybody else is all one layer. Maybe back here. But I'm now going to start drawing. I think maybe I'll just color that. Let's draw this shirt. Again, I don't really mind about what's in front of it just yet. Draw this shape right here. Those two will kind of look like they're meet up here. Let me zoom in some more. Get my pen tool. I got a little nuts there. Let's get out here. There we go. That's where they meet up. Let me zoom out a little bit. And right now I'm not going to worry too much about the wrinkles in the shirt. You know, some of these details are worth keeping and some are not. As far as the harness goes, I'm going to deal with that later. So I'm just going to kind of make it look like the shirt is getting pinched by the harness. Looks like he's really getting pinched in here. And in here we can't see it because of the shirt, because of the belt. So I'm just going to draw just slightly below the belt. And we're ready for this part of the shirt. He's got a walkie-talkie. Don't know where his shirt ends, but I know it's behind there somewhere. And then here is the other sleeve. There we go. So it's all about these shapes. Now this goes behind the neck, so I can just close that there. And I'm going to color that shirt that green color. Now again, we're going to turn on some layers. I have the face. Oh, the shirt needs to go. Oh, there's a couple things I need to do. The shirt is in the front, but there's one part of the face, that neck part right there. He needs to come up to the top. And so does the face shape. There we go. See if I've got the right guy. Yeah. So the neck and the face, even though I had them grouped up in with the other body parts, they are in front of the shirt. Okay. Now, I will draw the pants, and I'll do them one leg at a time because it looks like that's about how it works here. Again, I'm going to turn off this layer so I can see. So I'm going to draw the backmost shape first, then gravitate towards the front. So, and I can envision that this pair of shorts is going to go behind that leg a little bit. Okay, so we start here. And I can also guess that it's going to go behind the belt a little bit. If you want to turn off some layers so you can see, you can. I don't want to look too bunchy. By the way, I'm going to fill this with none. But at the same time, he does have a central part, so I will just go ahead and just complete this. And let's color it whatever color those shorts are, which is kind of a khaki. The darker khaki. Now I can turn that layer off so I can see the next layer. Looks like right in here. Oops, let me zoom in again. Here I'm going to provide, I don't want to get his leg messed up here. Looks like I was going too far out. I might show a little bit of wrinkling in the fabric. It's hard to tell here. I had to hit Command Z a few times. Just want to make sure I'm not messing this up. It looks kind of odd in the photo. So we'll just do this. There we go. So this is going to go over that leg that we drew earlier. And there are a couple wrinkles, so I might show a couple wrinkles on his pants. Again, I'm just clicking and dragging for the curve. Now, when it comes to this part right here, do I stop and draw up? No, I keep on drawing because this is one piece of fabric and the other elements are laying over the top of it. Okay, so this is something I'm going to just keep on drawing. There we go. Probably messed that up a little bit. There we go. So I've got two pieces of his pants. You could color the one here. You could do a slight gradient. When I say a slight gradient, let me turn these off for just a second. I might choose a second color. Let me go to my gradient here. There's the gradient. Double click on that tool. And I probably should park some colors in my swatches panel. So let's say I need this color right here. See how it goes there? And let's say I grab a darker color, such as the darker khaki color from a shadow. So I'm going to park it right next to the color I just created. Okay? So I got two colors. Now to do a gradient, you would click on the shape. Let me turn that back on. Say I want to do the back shape. I am going to get the gradient tool, click on the shape, make sure it's selected. There we go. Get the gradient tool, and if you click and drag, it just makes it, well, it doesn't do anything. Let's go to Window, Gradient. There we go. And we want a linear gradient, so we have to tell it, hey, you need to be a linear gradient. This case, I want it about 90 degrees up and down. But the only bad thing is I want this to be from tan to dark tan. So I'm going to bring up my swatches panel. Now the bad thing about swatches and gradients, they don't show up together very well. So I have to click my swatches panel and rip it off and go back to gradients. And so I am going to tell this to do a light tan to a dark tan gradient. In fact, I need to go the other way, so minus 90. There we have it. Now, when I go to turn on the other layer of the pants, there you can see it goes from light, and I'll go ahead and make this gradient as well. So I'm going to click on these pants and go back to my gradient, and I want a linear, and I'm going to go about 90 degrees on that one, just to try to get it some depth. In fact, that second color could go even darker, so I'm going to try a little darker. So there's that. Okay. Now I know it still doesn't look like much. I might even need some details here for the outline. But we'll see what I can do with this gradient before I do that. So you can get the gradient slider, and you can click and drag and move the gradient around. Excuse me. Do a little edit on the gradient to help you out. So you can move that around, and it'll provide maybe a little bit more depth. Okay. Now I'm zoomed out. Let me zoom back in. That's coming along. I'm going to close the gradient, go back to my layers panel. Just park my swatches back over here too. And I'm going to turn the arms back on and the shirt. So I'm going to turn all this back on. Okay, so there we have it. Let me turn off the picture, and we're seeing this is starting to really come through. Okay. Of course, I'm nowhere near completed, but you guys got it. Hopefully you get the hang of it, get the idea of it. Let me turn on the background and some of the trees and the rectangles. Oops, this is the guy I don't want on. And we'll start seeing how well this is coming together. Again, those trees, I may have to move those a little bit, reduce those down. I was getting a little happy with those. So if I want to do that, I click on each of these groups out here at the target, and if I hold down the Shift key, I can grab all three of those groups, and I'm going to scale those down because they're just getting in the way of the guy. Scale them and move them. There we go. That's a little bit better. I might even move this tree right here. So I'm going to save this. And we'll continue. I'll continue drawing it. And again, this is all pen tool. No Pathfinder or anything yet. Just the pen tool. And you guys have to do at least one of these using the pen tool. And I'll just keep on putting in details. Okay? So, the other videos I'll show you the Pathfinder things. So for now, we're doing the pen tool. So I'll keep working on this, and I'll post it here towards the end. Okay. Nearly done with my first symbol, and that was using the pen tool exclusively. And you'll have at least one symbol where you use the pen tool exclusively on it. There's a couple areas I think I could improve on. Maybe popping in some midtones or highlights in the hand and the shirt and the arm, and same thing here with this arm, and even in the pants, and I need to work on them on the legs, and maybe a couple others highlights in the face. But you guys get the idea of course I gotta cut those off, but get the idea of, you know, this is my symbol, or icon rather, not a symbol, it's an icon for zip lining. It's a little, maybe a little bit more detailed than maybe what people might expect, but you know, I don't think it's missing. You know, you don't want to miss too many details, otherwise you can't tell what things are. So there's the zip lining one, and I know it took me it's about 3 o'clock, and so we can go back to the beginning of the video, and it probably took me at least an hour and a half or so, but now I've got a few more to do of the great outdoors. Thanks, and I'll maybe show you some videos on the Pathfinder and stuff later. Alright, thanks.